the red light's on, so I'm going to start talking. Welcome to Talk of the Town. I'm your host for the night, Jeff Cohen. And we'd like to give a shout out to our sponsors. We have One Stop Painting. Thank you, One Stop Painting. And we have Cape Auto Body, owned by Kevin and Dave Gallerani, with 2 convenient locations in Plymouth, one on Samoset Street and one on Sandwich Street. And not only do they do auto body, but they do auto repair too. So check them out if you don't know who they are. You should know who they are because they're everywhere, especially with the roads in Plymouth of late with all the road construction. I'm sure your car could use an alignment or a tune-up or some kind of work done. So go give Kevin and Dave a call and say hello. Tonight, I have 2 guests with me. We have Rick Wood and we have Dale Bishop. And we are going to be talking about charity motorcycle runs tonight. People see motorcycle runs going around all the time. You see a couple hundred bikes go by, 1,000 bikes, 6,000 bikes, and everybody scratches and goes, what's going on now? We're stuck in traffic. And some people get annoyed. Other people actually know what's going on. So we're going to break down motorcycle runs and talk about them and how much good they do for the community and the people in the community. Predominantly motorcycle runs, they do play a large part. And the motorcycle community as a whole, they're a very giving, very caring family. And I call it a family, much like being in the military or working in a very close-knit group of people, a union or a restaurant or something along those lines. You become family after a while, and they take care of each other. So Rick is actually the president of an organization. The acronym is SEMMSF, and that stands for Southeastern Massachusetts Motorcyclist Survivors Fund. And one of the runs he does promotes nothing but helping people who have had accidents in motorcycles. So Rick, we're going to call you Mr. Motorcycle because that's pretty much how I view you. Okay. Since I've met you, you do so much for the motorcycle community. You're now known as Mr. Motorcycle to me. So, Mr. Motorcycle, tell us about the SEMMSF.
Okay, it was founded 9 years ago. It was a firefighter from New Bedford, Brian Mello, that was killed in a motorcycle accident on Route 44 in Middleborough. He was recently married. His wife, Elisa, found out after he passed there was no money for her, and she didn't know where to turn to, and said that, she didn't want it to happen to anybody else, so she decided to form this organization with the help of some other gentlemen, put together the Survivors Fund. And Brian's ride, they started a motorcycle ride 9 years ago in his memory, and with the premise to help raise funds to help other bikers if they get into that situation.
How many bikes were on the first run?
I wasn't involved for the first 2 years, so I think the first couple of years, there was a lot of motorcycles.
A lot of motorcycles?
Yeah, a lot of motorcycles. I think at one time it was probably 800 to 1,000, maybe even more.
Wow. Yeah, when I first became involved and actually met, I thought she was an absolute angel. When I heard her story, I was just totally smitten. I mean, how can you not? Mm-hmm. It's just, it was extremely touching, extremely touching. So I've been on the ride, and I was thoroughly impressed. I actually went to a few of your board meetings. Now, we're going to go back and forth on this, but I'll focus on the SEMMSF for a little while. Now, when I went to the board meeting, I was amazed. Now, motorcycle runs, people don't really know much about motorcycle runs. You might think that they're spur-of-the-moment things, but these take a lot of planning. When I went to your board meeting, my jaw dropped. How many people are on that board?
Well, at one time there was up to 8 or 9 members.
Okay.
It's all, like I said, we're a 501c. It's all volunteers. Nobody's getting paid for it. And to put on a motorcycle run, people ask me all the time to put on motorcycle runs. And in the whole picture of it, normally motorcycle runs don't make money. They're constant. They're a year-round work you got to work on. And then you pick a date, and you're weather dependent. If you get a rain out or you get a threat of showers, your fair weather riders are not going to come. And even though we promote that you don't need a motorcycle to come to these things, it's just a hope that you get people to show up.
Sure, which is why you try and sell everything in advance as much as you possibly can. I want to say that when I was there, you were closer to the actual event. You were within a month of the event. So not only was your board there, which was an incredibly gifted and varied group of people, which you do get in the motorcycle field, you probably had, I'm going to guess, another 20 additional volunteers there checking in for what their duties were that night. It was very, very impressive. It was extremely organized. The fact that it's a 501c, I think that's probably one of the reasons why your ride has outlasted a lot of the other rides in the area. And it's very impressive. Now, what your ride does is it raises money for motorcycle riders, which, again, is incredibly touching, the way it was all set up in the beginning. And you know what? I really was amazed at the way the whole thing was set up. So when you do a motorcycle run and donating money, a lot of people just hand you a check. Like I know when I do my events and I'm raising money for a particular family, I hand them the check. Now, on your end, it's so much further involved. So let's just say that I had an accident. I know there's a whole laundry list of things that I have to do just to qualify. I know you're very specific. You can't be drinking. You can't have been breaking the law.
Correct.
What are the other, just to qualify, what are the things?
The thing is, the accident has to be no fault of your own.
Okay.
You have up to 18 months from the date of your accident to apply for funds. If you get to that point and you say, I want to apply for funds, you can either contact any of the board members or go to our website. You can download an application. You fill it out and we ask that you include a police report with every accident application. So that'll tell if anyone was cited, if the rider was cited or not.
Exactly.
And then what happens, that process, we will take that in and we'll send usually 3 members from the board, and we do what we call a house sitting. We'll go to the applicant's home and sit down and go over the application with them, see what their needs are. And another thing, which I love the way it was set up, we don't hand you money. If we decide that we're going to give you a certain amount of money, we pay your bills. We'll pay your household expenses.
Phenomenal. That's the first time I've ever heard anybody doing that. That's incredible.
Yeah.
So you have them give you a list of what they have for bills due.
Yes.
And you'll give them a set amount of money that they qualify for, and then you'll take their bills and make sure they get paid.
Yes, they send them in. We tell them where to send them in, and our treasurer our treasurer will give them a running update as they send in and say, okay, you've got X amount of dollars left in your account and until it's all gone, and then that's it. There's another unique thing that this organization started. We'll just say you went through all those funds and you find out you still need more money. Thing was set up called the Friends of Brian event, and what that is we'll front all the costs. We'll get the hall, we'll get the food, we'll get the bands, and we negotiated with that family, whether it's a 70-30 split or a 60-40 split, where the applicant will get 40% or 30%, and 70% comes back to us because our organization is fronting all the money. And
that's going to help other people.
Yeah, we did one last winter, and we raised $9,000 in one night.
That's great.
So
the applicant walks away with $3,000 or $4,000,
Right.
And then the rest of the money goes back into the pot to help further.
Right.
That's just phenomenal. And Dale, I don't mean to ignore you over here, so let's get you
that's
involved. So Dale, the reason you're on tonight is you're involved with the runs in the food capacity to begin with, because your catering business does a phenomenal job, and it's not specifically designed for bike runs, but inadvertently it actually couldn't be a better fit to a bike run. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your business and what you actually do?
Well, I used to own a restaurant up in Foxborough called Outlaw Barbecue, and we used to draw quite a few people from the biker community, and we started hosting motorcycle runs there. We started seeing that there was a need for good food at a lot of these runs, where sometimes people want a little bit more as far as what they're eating at the end of the run.
Instead of a dried up burger, they want a good meal.
They're up early, they're out on the run, a lot of times they don't get back till 2 or 3 in the afternoon. They're hungry.
Sure.
The type of food that we do, pulled pork and pulled chicken and things like that, fall right in line with feeding some really hungry people. Along those lines, we had gotten out to a lot of other groups, but it always came back to the motorcycle run, because that community is got a heart of gold. It's every time somebody's in trouble, the motorcycle group, the motorcycle community is called upon to take the curse off of that person's financial worries. And they do time and time again. And like Rick said, it is a rain or shine type thing. If it threatens for 10 minutes in the morning, some people won't come out. But we're seeing more and more people starting to come to these events just to come, because in Rick's foresight, I guess, he's added more and more and more to these runs. It's not just the bikers and a band. Now there's vendors, there's things. Some of these runs include a family day, where we did one a couple weeks ago where they had all sorts of things for the kids. It's families. It's not just...
Oh, no, it's all
You know
families.
what I mean? And so we got involved with Rick a couple years ago and started doing some of his events. We've done everything from a run for boxers to help stranded boxers, or what do they call that?
Boxers.
Rescues.
Okay, rescue dogs.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure you meant boxers,
And-
fighters, or
no,
boxers
not,
animals.
not shorts, but
Yeah. So rescue animals,
the
rescue
rescue
dogs.
animals. So we did one for them. They raised $4,000 in a day. Not every run makes money, and Rick will tell you that.
I'm
It
guessing
takes
Heather-
a lot of work.
Did Heather have something to do with that, I'm guessing?
What's that?
Heather, does she have something to do with that? Heather Thorne?
She may have.
Yeah.
Yeah, she may have, and we did it at Outlaw.
Okay.
We did a trooper passed away up on 495, and we did a run for him, and it drew about 600, 700 bikes. The sad part about it, a really, really successful run usually evolves around somebody passing. And when it's fresh in people's minds, they tend to come out. It's that second year that is where you really show, and that's where Rick really shines, because his second and third and ninth year into these runs, because he works on it all year round, is successful.
Yeah, it's going to be a
And
year-round
once
thing.
once they see that it's a successful run, and the 503(1)C, is that what it's called?
501c.
501(c) draws that into play, because it keeps that nucleus of that run together, and people look for that. They look for the safe ride. They look for great bands, and a run that is just flawlessly run, where you go out and you never put your feet on the ground. And it's Rick is champion at that.
Sure.
But he's also involved in some runs that are 5,000-6,000 people too, and maybe more.
Yeah, we've
some
got
of
a-
these runs you can't even count the amount of people that they're at.
Yeah, I've been on a couple of big ones, but nothing like the ones we were talking about earlier. So back to the SEMMSF, it's a year-round thing. You don't have to go on the bike run to actually donate or to become involved. You can send in money at any point in time. There's a website set up, correct?
Yes, yeah.
And what's the website?
Is www.semmsf.org. There is a lot of information you can get on there, and there is a place where you can
Donate. You can actually donate.
Yeah.
And you can probably email you at that place
Yes.
as well if you want to become involved. When the bike runs go on, I know in a lot of events do this. You'll see the event T-shirts, and you're wearing one. Are you wearing one right now?
Yes.
Okay, and there's got to be. I'm going to guess there's about probably 40, 50 sponsors on there, anyways.
Like 60 sponsors on there, and
60
what we do
sponsors.
is we sell the sponsorship for $100 per name on it, and this is what ends up paying for your.
It subsidizes
naturally
everything.
pays for the food, pays for the band. You know, helps. Well, my bands are all donated, but it, pays for a lot of other expenses, and
Sure.
it's just more money coming in. And it's the whole thing is what's very unique about this organization is we don't know what the need is going to be every year. A lot of runs go into like a scholarship fund. So depending on what they raise, they can say, well, we can give out X amount of scholarships. This, just to give you a little background, last year alone, we serviced over 10 either individuals or families and gave out over $25,000 in benefits.
25,000.
Here we are in the 1st of August. We've already given out $20,000.
Wow.
So if we don't have success on the runs or the donations coming in, I don't want to get to a point where I get an application and I have to call somebody and says, you're on a waiting list till we get money in. Another thing that's involved in this organization, especially in the past couple of years, we're finding people putting on their own rides in memory of loved one that we may have helped in the future. They just had one a few weeks ago called Shauna's Run up in Pembroke. She was a young girl that was a waitress there. She and her boyfriend were tragically killed in a motorcycle accident 2 years ago. The girl, Shauna's family didn't have enough money for the funeral expenses, so our organization stepped in and helped pay some of the costs. So they put on a run, like I said, a few weeks ago. They came to our meeting 2 weeks ago and presented us with a check for $7,000.
Did they really?
Yes. And there was another one recently on the same day, matter of fact, Bears Run. Bear Mathers was a great guy up in Easton, was killed in a motorcycle accident 2 years ago. We reached out to the family. They did not need assistance, but appreciated so much that a third of their run that they put on every year comes back to us, which they gave us a check a few weeks ago for $2,900. And those are the things that makes the organization work.
Yeah, that justifies it to you too, and it's just a huge uplifting thing to realize that you're influencing people and helping them go out and do on their own, and it's huge. You're just
It's like
you're planting seeds.
We just don't know what the need's going to be, and without the help of and like I said, we cover 98 cities and towns. So we're talking Bellingham, Massachusetts, Plainville, all the way down to Nantucket.
And hopefully there's a year that you don't actually need to dip into the funds at all, but unfortunately motorcycle
That's not going to happen. Yeah.
No, motorcycle accidents happen. People just, it's a tough thing. It's a tough thing. You see them all around. You don't understand. People have to understand that motorcycles, you really got to watch out when you're driving around the bikes. And a lot of people get aggravated at the runs. I've seen people get impatient.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, of all the things to do, you really, it's a charity event. People are out raising money. So you have to understand that and, follow them. If you got nothing to do, just follow the bike riders to where they're going, and they're going to end up someplace with a band and some food, and for $20 or whatever it's going to cost you can go out and have a good time and actually help somebody. You do vendors as well, so
Yes.
what do you look for in vendors? Just in the motorcycle field, or
No, a vendor can sell
Anything
anything
at
they
all.
want. We give them a 10 by 10 spot for $50 for the day, which
$50? That's it.
That's it.
To get in front of a group of motorcycle riders, 1,000 strong, and motorcycle riders. Let's think about motorcycles for a minute, because you think about bike riders, and you see them running around. Do you need a mustache to ride a bike? Is that a prerequisite? No, just kidding. You got a hell of a mustache. But people stereotype. You see a guy on a bike, and all right, he's not driving a car, but you know what? That bike probably costs a lot more than most of the cars on the road. The average Harley, $25,000 for the average Harley these days.
Approaching $30,000.
And God forbid you want to put some chrome on there. There's another
yeah.
couple of thousand, just to do a couple of pieces of chrome on the bike. It's ridiculous. It's very expensive. I'll deviate for a minute. I was on a cruise. I went on a Monsters of Rock cruise in the springtime, and the poor people on the boat were horrified because clearly the rock and roll crowd does not tip or is not nearly as generous as the motorcycle crowd that they had on the boat. They take these cruises, they do different groups of people. They had a motorcycle cruise a month prior, and they said they were pretty much just drowning in money being thrown at them. And it was a vastly different cruise for them with the rock and roll people. It was kind of funny. But bikers as a whole, they're very generous in what they do. You break down the side of a road, a bike's going to be probably one of the first ones to pull over. Hey, you guys, all right? You need a hand?
You got to remember, the basic stereotype of a biker isn't what it used to be
Not
back in the 60s and 70s. We're talking lawyers and doctors, professional people like yourselves, down to whatever. And it's people
Painters.
with families, and it's people with real jobs and real
disposable income. It's a disposable income.
You don't know who is a biker, who's not.
No, you don't.
And where Rick's organization comes into, they don't distinguish
Nor should they.
any of that. It's,
If you're in need, you're in need.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll tell you, at any one point in anyone's life, they could use the help.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Which is why I strongly suggest, I know my friend Debbie had her booth there. She was selling coffee. And I hadn't seen her in a few years. I talked to her on Facebook all the time. We went to high school together. And there she was at Brian's Ride the year that I was there. And she was selling her coffee. And I mean, it can be any vendor at all. You can have a product to sell. You can have a service to sell. I've actually thought about it with the painting, because everybody that rides a bike has a house.
Absolutely.
So I should probably do a booth down there. But you can always pick up the phone or go to the website if you want to sponsor and help. There doesn't have to be a bike run coming up. You can do that at any time. I know some of the events around town. We just had Greg Malone's ride the other day. That was a big run. Let's talk about Morgan's ride. Morgan's ride is coming up, and you have something to do with that one as well, correct?
Yes, Morgan's run. 9 years ago, somebody was requesting a help for a little girl that had a rare disease. So I said, I offered to help and put on the first Morgan's run in 2009. Morgan is a little girl from East Bridgewater. She's currently, I think when we first got involved, she was 4 years old. And I said I would be willing to do that. I can't begin to pronounce the name of the disease she has. I'll say it's FOP, but I cannot pronounce the.
It's very rare.
Very rare. There's only like 250 people in the whole United States that have it. That's how rare it is.
It says here that any muscle that gets bruised has the chance to turn to a bone.
Yes. What happens if you get bumped or bruised? The ligaments, muscles, and tissues around that will turn to bone, and it'll actually form a skeleton within a skeleton inside somebody's body. So they wanted, and they don't know when this is going to strike. It could strike at any time. You can't have surgery because any injury, you cut yourself, those might turn to bone. So you even have to watch it when you get a cold. And anyways, we get to the first run, 7 bikes showed up. Oh, I was disappointed and said, I'm going to keep on it. Worked on it another year. Got some more information, more word out there. Had like 289 bikes the second year. So we've probably been able to raise this coming up. It's on September 27th. It'll be at the Hilltop Club in Kingston, Mass. $20 a person. You don't have to ride your bike. Same thing. We'll have food, vendors, entertainment. All funds go to the Morgan Fund, so when the time comes, she needs it. There may be a time where she'll need a handicapped accessible van. You know what those things cost. And so right now, all that money raised is going into a fund called the Morgan Fund, and the family takes a part of that money raised on the ride each year and sends it to the International for research, because they have no cure for this right now. They're testing drugs, from what I understand now, but there is no cure. It was when people were diagnosed 20 years ago, they'd get like lumps or something where the bone would, the skeleton, they were amputating parts of people's bodies.
Honest to God.
Yeah, I met a woman that's in her 30s now, down in lives in Georgia. I went down and visited her and took it from the shoulder, and she's still one of her legs is fused right now, because once those bones formed, the legs fused. She rides all over town in a golf cart. Wow. She lives in Peach City, Georgia, which has golf carts throughout the city, so it's perfect for her. I went down and visited her. She took me for a ride one night. I want to stay on my motorcycle the way she drives. I was so it's.
So for Morgan's Ride, how do people find out about it? Is it on Facebook?
It is on Facebook. There is an event page where I've been sharing it. If you look up FOP, I'm sure the actual disease will come up. It's also called the Stone Man's disease. Some of it, and even if you go look on YouTube, there's a bunch of videos that the girl I talked about before in Georgia has done some. She's been on some TV shows in the past, and there's a lot of information out there. But it's, like I said, it's so rare. I think in the whole world, there's only 700 and some odd people that have it in the entire world. So.
Wow. And it's pretty much a bike run for everything out there, for every disease.
Oh, there is, and I understand. Everybody thinks their run is the most important. And
it is to them.
It is to them, and I can understand that.
And you try and spread yourself out as far as you can and do as much as you can, because that's what we do.
Yeah.
So the bike runs, what's the date again?
It's September 27th. Registration starts at like 9:30.
And you're looking for riders. You're looking for drivers. You don't have to have a motorcycle to participate in these things. If you,
the motorcycle run part of it is only out for an hour. It's an all-day event. You come back and eat. You can relax. You'll have bands to play, and can have a great time, and you're supporting a great cause.
And you're looking for T-shirt sponsors?
Yes. T-shirt sponsors are $100. They can get a hold of me. either on Facebook, and actually I have my first one right here tonight. So
Look at that.
Thank you, Jeff.
So $100 to get on the back of the T-shirts. It's a great cause, and the T-shirt sponsorships are very important because they subsidize a lot of the events. So, and it it gets your company out there. Or if you've lost a loved one, you can put it in their memory. Anything, just the $100 really goes a long way with these motorcycle runs. Vendors, you're looking for vendors also.
Yeah, that one I really don't put out that much call for vendors. I usually have just 2 or 3 that I normally have there, so it's kind of a small space. But yeah, people can also get a hold of me if they'd be willing to set up a vendor spot.
Yeah, we're not going to turn away the $50.
No,
if someone
we're
wants
not
to
going
come
to turn
down.
away.
So if you in the biking community as a whole, they're right across. They spread the entire spectrum. So you can be in the service industry. Everybody that rides a bike also has a home or lives someplace. They have to live someplace. So they're going to have a need for plumbing, electrical, roofing, contractors. Bikers love coffee. Bikers love to go out to dinner. If you have a restaurant, if you have a special you want to promote, Dale has a phenomenal catering business. So from a vendor standpoint, if you have a service or a product and you want to get in front of a large group of people for a very small amount, $50 to get in front of a group of people like that, that's money well spent as far as I'm concerned. So. Morgan's run's coming up. Are there any other bike runs coming up? I've got a couple listed here. Lighting the Way Suicide Prevention Run. Have you ever heard of that one?
Yes, is that the one that's out of Easton or?
I believe that's out of Easton. Yep, we get that one. You got a list over here?
Well, I've got one that I know it's actually a local run. It's out of Plymouth, the American Hometown Heroes Run, which is...
Is that for firefighters?
Nope, this is for honoring some of the vets from Plymouth. So it's on August 16th at the American Legion in Post 40. Sign up is 9:30. They start the park and ride up right down the street here.
Can you pre-register for this?
I don't believe so.
So show up today at the event with
Yep.
the bike, or again, you don't have to have a bike to come down. You can bring your car,
and this
or
one
bring your
is
family.
it's $20 per rider, $10 for passenger, and $10 for walk-ins. The great food raffles, 50-50 raffles, entertainment by what it is.
That's Phyllis Malazzi. She's got a great local band.
And it's ends at the American Legion on Federal Furnace Road. And
And what do you got for food?
I
Don't know yet.
don't know because I was just given this and said give it a shout out for it tonight. So.
Perfect. Well, there you go, and that's right in Plymouth. There are rides all over. You can go on Facebook. You can Google. There is a motorcycle run. If you have any kind of a disease that you lost a loved one to, if you Google it, I'm sure you're going to find a motorcycle ride someplace near you. You can do it that way. Or just ask around to see a guy on a bike. Most people on bikes know when the bike runs are. You can grab somebody on the bike run. So let me see. Rick, how long have you been riding bikes?
I've been riding bikes for close to 50 years on and off. I started when I was like 11 years old with dirt bikes, and then actually my first vehicle when I was 16 years old, I didn't buy a car. I bought a brand new 1969 Honda 175 Scrambler.
Wow.
I remember thumbing with the helmet and my permit in my hand when I lived in Kingston at that time to Benton Courts and rode it home. So.
Benton Courts, that's where I got my first bike. No, actually my second bike. My first new bike came from Benton Courts. Dale, how about you?
I've been riding, probably about 35, 40 years.
35, 40.
Bought my first bike overseas
Did you really?
when I was stationed in the Marine Corps in Okinawa. And
You were in Okinawa?
yeah,
I didn't know that.
yeah. And
Wow.
bikes are cheaper over there.
Oh, they really?
They make them there. So yeah, I rode for a couple months, and then they switched the roads over from the right side of the road to the left side of the road, and I hung it up for a while. I took my bike off the road because it was madhouse.
Were you in the Marines for a long time?
What's that?
How long were you in the Marines for?
4 years.
4 years?
Yeah.
And then you went right into public service after that?
Yeah, I became a police officer in Towne and Norton, and then
That was 20 years.
what's that?
Was it 20 years in Norton or
No,
longer?
no. 6 years in Norton. I spent another 6 years over in Mansfield,
No kidding.
and doing the catering.
How'd you get into the catering?
Well, I was stationed in North Carolina at Cherry Point, and I met my wife, and her father was the state champion at the time
No kidding.
the state of North Carolina. And the first pig roast I went to was my rehearsal dinner. And all the people that had come down there for my wedding went to it and fell in love with it. And so We found an old oil barrel and started cooking about 30 years ago, and here we are today.
Honest to God, you have about 20 mobile units set up to do
Yeah.
catering events?
Yeah.
So you could technically handle 20 events on the same day if you had to?
Yep.
That's phenomenal.
Yep.
Phenomenal. And clearly I've had his food on many occasions, as had Rick, and you make a mean barbecue. Mean barbecue. Now, Rick, you were in the service too, I believe.
No, I wasn't. I was
wasn't?
not a vet. No.
You do a lot with the veterans, though, don't you? You get a lot of friends with veterans.
My brother was a Vietnam vet, and I saw how he was treated when he came home, and I vowed to not let it happen to any other vet. So I tried to get into whatever causes I could to help where I can for veterans.
You do so much for veterans, it wouldn't have crossed my mind for a minute that you weren't in the service. All right, so let's touch upon, you do the Boston Wounded Vets. Actually, you're more than just, what do you do for them?
I'm the director for the Boston Wounded Vets Run. The Boston Wounded Vets Run was started by a young Marine, Andrew Biggio from Winthrop, Massachusetts. He served in the Marine Corps, did several tours. When he came home, he said, there's got to be more I can do. He wanted to re-enlist, and he came up with the idea to, let's put on a motorcycle run. And he was out to pick the most severely wounded veterans he could find in the state of Massachusetts. So the very first year, it was a young kid, Vincent Badua, that had a traumatic brain injury. If you saw pictures of this kid when he was at Walter Reed, his whole upper, there was nothing up here. He lost 3/4 of his brain, and so they put on the ride for
him.
For Vincent's ride to do the money went to some home modifications because when he came home, he was still in a wheelchair and everything like that. And then Andrew, the type of kid he is, every year he wants to do bigger and better things. So the second year, he founded an organization called the Boston Wounded Vets Run. So the second year, it went to like 800 bikes to 1,000 bikes. Come 5 years later, last year we did 5 veterans, and like I said, the severely wounded. Last year was our first quadruple amputee that we sponsored, and what we do now is with these guys is kind of find out what their needs are. And a lot of the guys were motorcyclists before they got injured. Now naturally they can't ride a motorcycle, but they can ride a trike. So we presented 2 last year with a brand new trike.
Wow.
And this kid is like, once you meet him, you're drawn to him. And he just has a way to bring in money and bring in the bikers. Like I said, this past year, I think we had something like 6,700 bikes.
Wow.
Raised in excess of $100,000.
Honest to God.
Honest to God. And I know next year he's probably going to want to do 6 vets because he just won't give up. And
good for him.
I would say it's probably the biggest ride in New England, if not in the country. And knowing him, it will be. And what spawned off of that has been bike runs in numerous parts of state. There's one coming up this year in New York, started 2 years ago. California's had one. Kansas. There's one in Colorado in September. All under the Boston Wounded Vets. And a lot of the people from Boston will go to these events too and help out with them, and Andrew will go out ahead of time and advise them, and he just won't quit, and he's just a great kid, and people call me and want to do something like the Boston Vet Runs. I don't even, you're not in the same league. It'll never happen. It'll just never happen.
No, that's pretty amazing. I've never been on a ride even remotely close to that size. Do they do T-shirts?
They do T-shirts, and there's also a website on that called WeFoughtWeRide.com. You can go on there, the same thing, always looking for donations. We always usually hold a ride now. We've moved it up. We used to hold it in April, but April can still be cold, so it's moved to usually the first week of May or something. We haven't picked an official date yet for next year, but and it's starting to get a lot more community involved. We'll go out and we'll actually get flags, the little American flags, and have people ask people to line the street and wave the flags when the motorcycle comes by. Nice. And it's a lot of the towns will have a lot of trucks set up for us with the American flag that we drive under and stuff like that. So
where's the ride usually start and end?
It starts at Boston Holly, which used to be in Everett, now it has moved to a new location, and The first couple of years, we were ending up in the East Boston Italian Legion post up there on Paris Street, and we just outgrew the venue. I mean, it's a small building, and it's got a fenced-in parking lot. We had
For that many
2,000 people
yeah,
in there
can't.
one year, and it's like, we can't do this anymore. So the last 2 years, we ended up in Suffolk Downs.
Really?
Yeah, and not only did we have probably 6,700 bikes, but I think total crowd was over 10,000 people. And vendors, we had vendors everywhere up there, and a lot of stuff he gets donated. A lot of food is donated. He does T-shirt sponsors. They're a lot more expensive, but we have no problem filling the T-shirts, and we usually end up making 3 or 4 banners because everybody wants to be part of it.
Yep. No, that's great. I'll talk to you more about the shirts and the vending booths afterwards. Definitely be interested in doing that. How long's that one been going on for now?
Last year was the 5th year.
5th year. And Brian's run is in its
9th year.
9th year. So next year's going to be the 10th year. When you're doing these runs, as far as marketing goes, is it pretty much Facebook?
Pretty much Facebook. I mean, it's like I said, you want to cut down on your cost as much as you can. It's like the more things you can get donated naturally. Like I said, I usually have great luck with bands. And yeah, you just want to. So Facebook is free advertising. I mean, if you can you put an event page out there, and if you can get your friends to tell their friends to share it, before in an hour you've reached 50,000 people.
Sure.
I mean, what can you buy 50,000 flyers, colored flyers, you're going to go broke.
It's going to cost you some money. And how long does it actually take? So you work on Brian's ride all year?
All year, yeah.
There's no time off from this.
Well, we take like 2 months. We don't meet during the months of November and December.
Gotcha.
We do take the holidays off. But.
And doing motorcycles, do you do? Is there an alternate rain date sometimes, or?
I don't, because because most of my stuff is donated. It's hard to make like a band commit to 2 different days. So I normally don't. It's rain or shine, and sometimes I've got burnt on it, and sometimes I haven't. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
and being a 501(c), I know you have to have, you definitely have insurance, et cetera,
yep.
et cetera, et cetera, and a lot of expenses that go along with running the 501(c). I'm sure you have to have CPA and whatnot. Do you have to pull permits for these runs? Are there any permits involved? Does it depend on the town that you're doing the run in?
It usually depends on the town. I know, like the Boston Winter Vets, because we're dealing with the city of Boston. There's a stack of permits like that.
Sure.
And
that's a lot of
everything from
people.
the height of your your stages and everything else. But the locally usually don't run into that at all.
So what if you wanted to go on the bike run and you actually wanted to ride on a bike? Is there a way that a person that on the fringe, maybe they don't have a friend that rides a bike, but they actually wanted to go onto a bike, are there people that would actually let you ride on the back of their bike?
Yeah, there is at times. We get a lot of those requests, and sometimes you can fill them and stuff like that.
So if somebody's out there listening and they didn't have a motorcycle or access to, or a friend, and they wanted to ride on the back of somebody's bike, they could actually call up and say, if anybody's looking, please let them know that.
Yeah, and like I said, a lot of runs at the runs themselves, they'll say, hey, there's any back seats open? I got a bunch of people that want to ride, and we'll just put the word out there, and
fill the
most
seats.
of the time somebody,
Sure. No, I wasn't sure how that worked out. And police details, do you often, or how do you, going through multiple towns, is it easier to have the police departments in those particular towns become involved?
What I do is, like, each ride I do is basically a different route, and it actually depends on the ride, and it depends on the towns. A lot of towns will not help me. They'll come right out and say, financial reasons, and we just don't have the manpower. We can't do it.
Sure.
Other ones will be, like I do a Jared Monte run for Jared Monte. He was killed in action. He was given the Medal of Honor, and I do that out of Rainham. Rainham police are fantastic with me every year. They always help me out. Bridgewater, the same thing. And it depends on the town, but I won't pay for actual police escorts. But
So now, the ride itself, you have your own people to help out.
yes, what we do, and a lot of these rides do this. We'll call what we call blockers and have them block the intersections off and stuff like that. Or another name for them is road guards, and so they'll try to. A lot of times we'll go out and we'll point out to them as we're doing the ride. I'll point out, say, okay, I need one on this side, one on that side. They'll go up and shut down the road and let the bikes go through.
How hard is that? It's got to be a lot of work.
It is a lot of work, you know, because you got to ride. You got to plan the route. What I try to do all the time is get off of main roads, go on back roads because there's less traffic. People seem to, and there's so many beautiful roads in Southeast Mass that you can ride on.
We're so lucky around here.
Yeah, and it's like Brian's ride. When you get off of Route 18, I'm on back roads 90% of the ride, and it's just that. And that another thing, it's not. You're not bothering the motor, the automobile public, the ride. If you're staying on the back roads, you might not even see a car on half the ride. So that's what my main thing is to try to do. And then you ride it a couple of times and you count where there's a stop sign. Do I need somebody there? I try to think safety all the time. We also, in the Survivors Fund, promote safety. It's one of our things. We'll put classes on throughout the year for different safety things and stuff like that. So to us, safety is the key. And I'd rather have some guy sit blocking a stop sign and not have a car there at all, and then instead of not, and then somebody running into the motorcycles or whatever. So
absolutely, yeah. And as the blockers, you probably have a group of 10, 20 blockers per run.
It depends. It was like just last week I needed 35. So
wow, that many.
And that was without police, because I can't anticipate, because a lot of times the police stations will call me that morning. And I'll try to send them out there. I don't know until I get out there that day whether they're going to be there or not.
Plus, the day of the ride, you probably have a lot of people who just show up anyways to pay. So it's hard to gauge how many people you actually have coming.
Right.
So the food's got to be a nightmare to try and plan accordingly.
And they'll talk about this all the time.
Yeah, I can only imagine the headaches the night before.
Because a lot of times on Facebook, I found that it's so easy to hit yes, but
if you have 1,000 people to say yes, you can pretty much assume 500 are going to come.
Exactly.
Yeah, but it gets the word out there.
Yeah.
So the bike runs, you got the bike run, then you go back to the location, you're going to have some food. Now, I've seen at your place in Foxborough, when you had it, I saw you did a lot of bike games, they were called. So explain to me the bike games. What do you actually do for bike games?
Well, we had a good friend of ours, Greg Benson, that used to do the bike games. And the typical games that are played down in Myrtle Beach and at Sturgis and at Laconia that people
and
like
these
to
do
go
involve
and watch.
These involve a motorcycle too, right?
These involve anybody that's at the run. They set up a some of them, it's a balance board for a certain distance to see if they can follow that balance board, or they have what's called a slow ride, which they have to ride their bike as slow as they can, and the last one across the line wins.
Wow.
And they're all done pretty safely. When Greg was running them, he really had a control over it, so nobody was getting hurt. They have what's called the weenie bite. They have the keg roll, where they would have to roll a keg down a lane and keep that keg with their bike without touching.
One bike, or do you have multiple?
One bike.
Wow.
Then everybody lines up with
their own keg.
And they try. Whoever makes it to the end first wins.
Oh, it's gonna be a
and
riot.
you give away small prizes and stuff, but it's just the bragging rights that if you can complete the event and do it, you're pretty good.
Yeah.
And we used to run them all the time. Sometimes you get a lot of people sign up for them. Sometimes you don't get anybody sign up for them. Depends on the crowd. You know what I mean? And
but
just something
another
fun.
layer.
It's just something fun,
Adds
something different
layer.
to do. And sometimes we do these runs at places that just don't facilitate the room to do it, because it takes some room to put these games on.
Well, like Rick said, he doesn't have a lot of room for vendors when he does the Kingston for Morgan.
Yeah.
So the venue does
when we were
dictate
at
that, I'm sure.
Outlaw, Greg would come in and he would lime an area off,
I remember that.
so that everything was all lined, and we had it roped off so that foot traffic couldn't cross, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
What's the most interesting thing you've ever seen done at a bike run?
Most interesting thing?
Yeah. Most out of the box idea you saw somebody do, whether it's to raise money or just to make it more exciting.
I don't know, Rick.
Rick?
Just throwing one recently that had a dunk tank. I haven't seen that. I know one time we talked about doing that, especially you do a run in July and August. You get some days where it's 90, 95 degrees. It would be kind of fun thing to do, but sometimes you get into the liability end of it too, and it's like, my insurance policy covering me for the event and stuff like that. And
that's a good one. You should take a separate rider out on that.
My most memorable one we actually got two A-10 Warthogs to fly over at the same time at the last note of the Star Spangled Banner.
No kidding.
And we didn't tell anybody that it was going to happen, and it was just this flyover of these are the two loudest airplanes that they have.
Oh, those are big.
And even today, I can pull it up on YouTube and still see this video, and it sends goosebumps down my back.
Okay.
It's amazing. One of the big things that Rick uses at a lot of his runs, and I used it at some of the ones I did, was the fire departments will come down and they'll hang a flag, an American flag, at the entrance or at the end where these bikes go through.
Do they
And
charge
just
for that,
to
or they
see-
just come down
just-
to do it?
What's that?
Oh, they always donate their time.
Do
They
they
donate,
really?
yeah. Most of the time,
Yeah, well,
your
fire
local-
department, that's a brotherhood as well.
Yeah,
The fire
most of the
departments,
time,
police
your local
departments.
fire departments and your local police departments will donate their time.
Yeah.
I know that there's a directive down on the state as far as motorcycle runs. Sometimes you can get somebody there, sometimes you can't. But it's all, nothing bad on them. It's just that that's the way it is.
Sure.
But it's, I did one at the commercial club a couple weeks ago for a cause called Hope Not Dope, and this young lady, Linnell Cox, put this on, and they did a family day, and at the end of the day they had a candy buffet for the kids. So as they were leaving, the kids got to pick their own
Little candy
scoop
bag.
of candy, and that was pretty cool. I'd never seen that before.
Candy bars are getting
And that
big
was
now.
at a motorcycle run. You know what I mean?
I
So
wouldn't expect to see a candy bar at a bike run. That's
You know what I mean?
Different. Yeah, that's different.
it's fun, and the more interesting that people can make their runs, the better.
You want a reason for the whole family to come
'cause-
down.
And Rick and I have discussed this before. There's 1 million runs that are out there right now, and some people are getting really tired of it. A lot of times, it's getting expensive for the biker to do this Saturday and Sunday, all week long, all summer long. If you're planning a motorcycle run, try to incorporate something different into it. Try to incorporate the community. Try to incorporate.
Face painting, fighting contests.
They have that, and it's so cool because the more people
Dunk
that you
tanks,
get involved,
that's a great one.
it doesn't have to be just
bikes.
bands.
Yeah.
You could have a local. You could have the local. We just did another event where they ran a lacrosse tournament. I'm sorry, a field hockey tournament
in conjunction with.
this, and it's be creative because right now it's hard for people not to evolve to a motorcycle run.
Sure.
When something happens to somebody, the minute somebody goes down on a motorcycle, the minute a biker gets hurt, no matter what it is,
The community
we
comes
want to. We
together.
want to. There's a certain group of people that surround that person. We want to do a motorcycle run. We want to do it right away. Well, when you want to do these right away, the planning has to be point on, or it's
Sure.
not going to work, and you're not going to make any money. You're not going to do what you've set
And
out
you got to
to
look
do.
at the calendar too, because you don't want to. You're trying. There's too many.
People
You're gonna have the bike runs at the same
You got to
time.
understand some of the costs of this. One, the T-shirt guy can't give away the T-shirts.
Sure.
The food guy can't give away the food. They might help, you know what I mean? And they might donate to your cause and all that, but they have businesses to do too.
Yeah, and the venue's
it's almost
gotta
like
make
the
some money.
church saying to the Bible salesman, "Give me a break, I'm buying Bibles." Well, that's all I'm selling to you. You know what I mean? So it's a matter of fine-tuning all those other costs, like Rick was saying. Don't go out and spend a lot of money on flyers. When you've got Facebook at your fingertips, use it. Use social media. It works. It really does.
Yeah, you can still do flyers, but I would have to say Facebook.
but you don't have to spend $300 to go get a bunch of flyers made.
Sure.
The other part of it is, as far as your T-shirts, there's no reason that you have to go out there and throw 6 different colors on your T-shirt to make it different. have a graphic guy draw that so that you use one color, maybe two, and you're saving yourself some money.
Sure.
You know,
Tattoo artists actually are phenomenal. Even the tattoo artists in the area, the artwork that they do
It's amazing.
very easily can
Yeah.
be translated to a T-shirt design.
And with all the new graphic designers out there, it's not like it was years ago where you had to draw it perfectly on a white piece of paper so that they could get the T-shirt done.
Oh, they'll figure it out.
Now it's all digital, and they can clean it up. They can do whatever you want. And
Yep, they
I've
can
seen
grab-
some pretty nice logos done in the past, and I've seen some really hideous ones. So put a lot of time and thought into what you're doing.
Sure.
Everything that you do on that T-shirt means something.
Sure.
You know
And the
what I mean?
T-shirts, it's tough when you order the T-shirts too
Yeah.
because you have to order sizes.
Plus, you want
men's,
people to
women's,
want to
tank
buy
tops, and you don't want to send in a lot of T-shirts after
them.
they do
You
that.
don't want to. You don't want to be offensive on your T-shirt because you want people to buy them. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean? And if it says some saying on the back that might offend
I
somebody,
recommend it is go low on your numbers, on your amount of T-shirts. You'd rather sell
Yeah.
out than...
'Cause you can order
a
more.
lot of people, what they do is, whatever logo they design, put the year on it. If you don't sell them out, who wants
You're
to buy
stuck
a
with
shirt
it.
from last year's ride?
Now, do you have a T-shirt cannon for any of your events?
We did a couple, 2 years ago I did. That was a big hit. We were firing them off, and
Sure.
but we didn't this year. And,
Okay. If you ever want to borrow a T-shirt cannon, let me know.
all right, I will. I will. It's a
I
big
know a
hit,
guy.
and it's a way to get rid of T-shirts because.
Well, yeah. Plus, especially if your sponsors want to donate some T-shirts from
Yeah,
their own company,
right, yeah.
you know, say give me $25 more and give me 25 T-shirts, I'll pass them out for free.
Yeah.
You know, and
I
you
have a
make it couple
potato
bucks
gun.
more. The potato gun.
I'm a food guy.
Similar but different. I actually went online this morning. My office manager went online this morning and downloaded. I said, Sheree, I need some good questions for tonight. So she popped online, how to organize a motorcycle run, and it's kind of, it's like an idiot's guide to how to organize a motorcycle run. If you do them if you do them, you understand all this, and it's just common sense. But it breaks down how does the charity event work. Got to make decisions. Start planning a year in advance. It tells you. Set a goal. Who do you want to raise the money for? A nonprofit, community organization. Capacity for your venue. Who are you going to invite? What kind of a motorcycle charity event? Bikers of a few runs. Planning committee. Yeah, set up a committee. This is some great stuff. So, you can pop online with Google. It's just everything's at your fingertips. She just entered, motorcycle charity runs how to, and that pops right up. And it's a phenomenal little guide.
One thing that you want to remember, though, if you're going to run a charity and you're going to donate it to a cause, make sure before you get started to contact that cause.
Of course.
Because some of these places won't take the money at Susan B. Cohen. They have a certain guideline for you to raise money using their name, or they won't allow you to use their name. So it's always a good courtesy to call, and if you're going to donate it to Rick's, call Rick and say, listen, we want to run something, can we donate to your cause?
Yeah, because if you get, especially, and knowing what Rick does, Rick raises money for motorcycle injuries. So everything he does is by the boards and very, very safe. So
Yeah.
if you have a not so well organized /run that wouldn't be very safe, well, you can't really promote your money and donate it to an organization that promotes safe riding. So
Right.
yeah, always call up whoever you want to donate their money to, and there are probably some guidelines you'd have to follow. Let me see, police detail, types of runs. So types of runs, we didn't even talk about that. Some of the runs are different. Polka runs,
Yep, there's
scavenger
polka runs,
hunts.
there's scavenger runs, and your regular normal bike runs.
You prefer the regular normal bike run?
I prefer them. The problem I see with the polka runs is if you're having something after you send them all out, say you're making 4 stops, 3 stops, some
And-
people will stay at that 3rd stop forever, and you're trying to plan, well, we're going to have food at X amount of time and raffles, and we're going to pull them at X amount of time, and if 50% of your people are still hanging at the 3rd stop, it's,
Yeah, it can
so-
be very confusing.
I mean, it's the only plus side of a polka run is you don't have to worry about police detail. You don't have to worry about roadblockers and stuff because they go out on their own. They may go out
Exactly.
6 or 8 bikes,
Or a
20
scavenger
bikes
hunt
at a
must be
time.
the same thing,
Right.
And
right?
they have to abide by the city and state laws.
Now,
You can't just blow through stop signs to go into,
No, unless you've got it organized and there are details and whatnot. I've never done a scavenger run before.
No, I've never done
Never
one.
done it. You ever done a scavenger
we
run?
did one.
So how does that work? You must give
come
them a
up with a
guideline. Be
list.
back by a certain time.
Yeah, what we did is we came up with a list of items to collect. Where it was a motorcycle run, it had to be something that the passenger could either put in their coat pocket or in a backpack.
Yep.
And it can be anything from a picture with the police officer to
a menu.
A picture or a bottle of water from a certain store.
Sure.
And they have to search out and find these things. You have a set amount of time that they have to bring their items back, and then you're scored on the items. Then you have to set up tiebreakers and all that, and it's a team effort. They're fun. They are fun, but they take a lot of time, and they take a lot of planning and a lot of work. And again, it's another one that you don't have to set up a specific run, because once they leave your place, they can go wherever they want to go.
And I would imagine cars would actually
Could
fit
get
into that
involved
very
also.
nicely.
So that's also an option. The nice option about it is if you're having it at a place that has a pavilion, say the commercial club in East Bridgewater has a pavilion, it can go rain or shine, because if it's going to rain, you can still do the scavenger hunt. Instead of bringing your bike, you bring your car. So you've got that option.
Here's a dumb question. Have any of the bike runs ever reached out to the car clubs and tried to do?
They do. I personally don't like to incorporate cars in a run.
Not with a pure run,
No.
but maybe on a poker run.
Well,
or
there's
a
some other
scavenger
ones that'll
hunt?
have like a car show where the cars will stay at the venue, like classic cars or.
Like that one at the airport that time that I went to that you were at.
Yeah,
They had
the
a
one
big
that
car
we did,
show
yeah.
there.
I think that Greg's Ride last Sunday had that option. I saw pictures. There was cars, classic cars in the parking lot at the Black Raspberry that stayed there while the ride went out. So it does happen. I've had people request to ride their cars, and I won't allow them to ride the ride.
Yeah, on the ride. I wouldn't want to see that happen either. Much safer to not have the cars involved with the actual bike.
You're better
run
off
itself.
doing a separate thing for that. You're part of a Corvette club.
Correct.
And you're better off approaching that Corvette club and say, hey, listen, let's do something for this or separate from this, but let's go down there and support them, and maybe they'll come and support ours.
Sure.
And do it for the same cause. You're still reaching the same amount of people or more people, but you're doing the same, because there's two separate safety issues. There's two separate safety issues.
And again, I'm just thinking out loud. I wonder what would happen, because I know my Corvette club, I actually haven't gone on a cruises in a long time, but they'll set up cruises too, and they take care of it totally on their own. I wonder if a car club or multiple car clubs could get together with a bike run and just say, hey, you guys are going to do your bike run. You're going to be driving from Plymouth through Kingston. We're going to take ours. We're going to go through Duxbury. We're going to go through an entirely different. We're going to go totally opposite direction of you. But we know we were all landing at the end of the day for barbecue. That might not be a bad thing.
No.
It's the same thing where you could do the same thing. Say you've got the Massachusetts car club.
Yeah, antique car club, whatever it may be.
And the New Hampshire one. Pick a place that's central and have it there, a park.
Because ultimately the goal is to raise money and raise awareness. That's the ultimate goal. It really doesn't matter whether you walk, drive, fly, whatever you're doing.
A lot of the festivities that you do, these are all done.
Oh my God. We're over. Jesus, I had a lot of stuff I wanted to talk about.
It's a good topic.
Well, maybe we'll have to revisit this another time, but thank you very much for watching tonight. I've been your host, Jeff Cohen. This is Rick and Dale, and any questions at all, find them on Facebook, and I believe we're still filming. So thank you very much to our sponsors, Kevin and Dave Gallerani. I'm sorry we didn't have a chance for phone calls or anything. I let the time get away, and I had so much more that I wanted to talk about, but you've heard a little bit. Motorcycle rides are going on everywhere. They're to raise money and raise awareness for a cause or a person, and I highly recommend, even if you don't have a motorcycle, to get involved. You don't have to ride a bike. If you're a vendor, if you want to sponsor a t-shirt, if you lost a loved one, there's so many ways you can help out. And it's a vast community of motorcycle riders. Everybody has a friend that knows somebody that rides a bike. It's a very close-knit community. different organizations. I know there's a group of motorcycle riders just made up of Marines, right? The Leathernecks, and you got the I don't even know all the names of them, but I know there's different. The Infidels, that's the one that I was thinking of. I know they do a lot of stuff with you guys, and police groups and fire groups, and the Greg Malone run. He was the Plymouth police officer that passed away. So many different ways to get out there and to help and to find out more about it. So I highly encourage you to find out more about it. And again, thank you to our sponsors, Kevin and Dave Gallerani of Cape Auto Body, One Stop Painting. I heard that guy sponsors as well. And thank you very much for joining us. And I think we're going off the air right now.